Welcome to our first in our series of bite-sized sessions that we're running throughout December. Today's session will cover Facebook and Instagram. Just a few housekeeping bits first of all. The session will last for about 40 minutes and there'll be plenty of time for a Q&A. We kind of put in 10-15 minutes. Any questions that we don't cover, we will be doing a little roundup blog, or you can alternatively get in touch with any questions that you have afterwards. If you do have any questions, do use the Q&A function throughout, or the chat function, and the speakers will answer those questions at the end. And we'll also be asking for some audience participation, everyone's favorite thing. So once again, you can either use the chat function, and there may even be a poll or two for you to take part in. So getting started, in terms of what we'll cover in this session, it will be broken nicely into two sections, with each section covering how to identify your objectives, how to reach your target audience, the different ad formats available, best practice, and our top tips and tricks for Facebook and Instagram. We'll then get stuck into a couple of little hidden gems about how to set up a campaign before exploring what the future looks like for paid social on Instagram and Facebook. So without further ado, you're probably wondering who I am. My name's Mike, and I'm the head of growth marketing here at Arke. Think of me as your compere. And I'm going to be joined by two of my glamorous assistants, aka the experts, the people you've come to listen to. We've got Ben, who is our paid media manager, and Gemma, our paid media analyst. Hopefully you can see them on the screen, fingers crossed. So let's start with a little bit about Arke. We are a Brighton-based digital marketing agency who unravel your data to paint a picture and tell stories to people who will love your brand. We are intelligent digital marketing. We inspire curiosity into human behavior to help people better understand people. Through the unification of creativity, data science, and technology, we see the what, discover the why, and produce experiences that excite and strategies that work. How do we do it? Put simply, our core services are all about stories. So we've got content and creative, intelligence, which is our analytics and data science arm, and then audiences, advertising, which is what you can learn about today. So key takeaways from this bite-sized session that we hope you'll be leaving with. Number one, and undoubtedly most importantly, everything always starts with objectives. So you really need to consider what you're looking to achieve, and we'll help you guide through some of that this morning. Continue to optimize, think mobile first and think video first. Again, the guys will take you through what that means. And finally, targeting options are changing on these two platforms. The biggest question is, are you ready? We'll touch upon these a little bit later on and offer you some advice and things that you can do to mitigate those changes. So now all of that's out of the way, it's time to start talking about Facebook. And I'm going to hand you over to Ben to wow you with everything that you need to know. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks, Mike. So we're going to be starting things off with a quick poll. So how many of you are using Facebook at the moment as a platform to advertise on? So you'll see a little poll pop up on your screens, and we'll leave this here for around 15 seconds for you to answer. Lovely, thank you. So now let's look at some stats that will hopefully make you understand the magnitude of the opportunity that advertising on Facebook presents. So we know that 78% of users log in daily, ranging between the ages of teenagers to ages 65 plus. So really, really broad. Facebook has 3 billion global active monthly users, with an advertising audience reach of around 2.14 billion. So great opportunity there. And we know that the average Facebook user clicks on around 12 ads per month as well. So now getting stuck into some numbers. So as you can see, Facebook can most closely be compared to Snapchat when looking at key metrics in relation to other commonly used platforms, which conveniently we'll be covering in the next 2 sessions before Christmas. So the number one step to know is, what do you want to achieve with advertising on Facebook? Consider, what are your goals? What are your success metrics? What do you expect to kind of gain from running ads? What is important to your business specifically? So you may know who your customers are, but how does this translate into the profile of a user that you can kind of actively target? So first of all, we can tap into the various interests of users and intent signals to really identify and reach those audiences at scale. It's really important to know from the bat who you want to target. How does kind of a social persona kind of reflect your real life customers? Think about what channels they're using. How does their age, demographic, or profession affect this? And all of these kind of 3 points help determine which platforms are best to advertise on for you, what kind of investment you'll need, and which ad format to utilize. So there are hundreds of ways to target your audience on Facebook and Instagram, but it's getting a little bit tougher, as Mike mentioned, but we'll touch more on that a little bit later. To start off with, we can target by location, and you can get really specific in this, such as targeting where they work versus where they live. We've got demographics, so your standards, age, gender, parental status, relationship status. Facebook knows a lot about us, and we can tap into that to create audiences. Building on that, interests. So the possibilities here are pretty endless. So let's say you've got an e-commerce store that sells vinyls. You could target users who've expressed interest in vintage record players, music, R&B artists, or jazz, for example. And then behaviors. So introducing the Facebook Pixel, which is a piece of code that essentially sits on your website to track the user behavior, so that you can display ads to people who behave in certain ways. Again, we'll touch on this a little bit more later. We can tap into engagement. So if someone's recently liked one of your Facebook or Instagram posts, or even watched a certain amount of a video, you can retarget them based upon this activity. We can use partner connections, so based upon the behaviors that users take away from Facebook. So, for example, if you're a car dealership, you could target users who've recently applied for a new car loan. And then automatic optimization. So using all of these targeting options to zero in on your audience, the audience that works for your brand. And Facebook will automatically kind of optimize your audience for you in order to reach the right people at the right time. Lovely. So on your screen here, this is just a little screen grab of how you'd go about identifying who you want to target on Facebook. And our top tips when it comes to identifying your target audience are really kind of all around creating a lookalike audience modeled upon the customers that are most valuable to your business, mapping out and understanding your kind of unique buyer journey and constructing your campaigns to reflect the different stages along those journeys, and finding out which campaigns and techniques make your audiences engage the most. So moving swiftly on to some of the ad formats and types available for you to use on Facebook. We've rounded up some of the ones that we'll think will be most beneficial to you, starting off with static image and video ads. Now, these are probably the most common type of ad format, and you'll see these out in the wild every day. They kind of mirror the look and feel of native posts, blending in with the user's browsing experience. So these are pretty self-explanatory, and they're great for direct response. And then moving on to some more kind of left field ad options. So augmented reality ads. These let people interact with your product on the mobile Facebook newsfeed in a really kind of exciting and engaging way. So users can experiment with your brand's AR camera effects in just one click directly from the ads. And of course, importantly, you can add call to actions within the camera experience to allow users to go from engaging with your product to actually kind of taking that next step and purchasing. Next, we've got carousel ads. So this allows you to showcase up to 10 images or videos within a single kind of ad unit, each with its own link, kind of linking off to the relevant page on your website. With kind of much more creative space in each ad, you can highlight the kind of different products, showcase specific details about one product, service, or promotion, or really nicely tell a story about your brand that develops across kind of each carousel card. And then we've got lead gen ads. So as I'm sure we've all experienced, filling in forms can be a bit difficult on mobile, but Facebook ads, lead gen ads solve this problem really nicely. So when people tap on your ads, a form kind of pops up within the app, and it's already pre-populated with their Facebook contact information and ready to be sent directly to you. So within just a few taps, they can get all of the information that they want from you, and you've generated a qualified lead for your business. And then finally, instant experience ads. So their kind of unique point is that they load instantly within the app. They're optimized to be mobile friendly, and they're designed to capture the complete attention of your audience. So within an instant experience, people can watch engaging videos and photos, swipe through carousels, tilt to pan, and explore kind of images with tagged products, all within one single ad. So super, super engaging. And there's some tried and tested, best practices when it comes to Facebook. And these 10 points will get you pretty far along the road to outperforming your competitors in 2022. So the first, choosing an objective that derives business value for your business. Super, super important. Targeting a specific audience. So we know that quality is much, much more important than quantity, kind of really zeroing down on the customers that are unique to you. Showing ads that are relevant to your target audience. So thinking about the content that they would kind of most likely engage with. We recommend that you utilize placement optimization, which is something we'll touch on a little bit more. Embrace campaign budget optimization. So let Facebook do the heavy lifting of kind of where you should direct your ad spend. Be visual. So, your imagery really needs to be kind of visually appealing. There's so much kind of noise on Facebook, so you really need to kind of cut above that. And leverage mobile first creative. So we know that around kind of 95 to 97% of users browsing Facebook do so on mobile devices. So your content needs to be kind of really mobile first in order to kind of facilitate that journey. And super, super important is closely aligning your visuals and your copy. Think how you can personalize your ads to your kind of end user. And include an exciting value proposition. So why should they click on your ad? What's going to excite them to take that kind of next step away from Facebook and spend more time with your brand? Which brings us nicely on to the 10th point. So include a clear call to action. Tell your audience exactly what you want them to do. And more likely than not, they will kind of do that. So moving on to how to track. So there's 4 kind of fundamental tools to use when reporting and analyzing on your Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns. Our favorite tends to be Google Analytics, which allows you to track conversions and website activity. And you can really gather a wealth of data, which can help you kind of form your Facebook ad strategy. Next, we've got the Facebook Pixel. Again, a small piece of code placed on your website that collects data from all of the users on your site. And then CAPI, or Conversion API. This is a newish alternative to the Facebook Pixel. And its key kind of benefit is it doesn't use third-party cookies to operate, but rather a server-to-server connection. So this just makes sure that any data lost from the Facebook Pixel in the wake of cookies disappearing is recouped. And then finally, you can learn a lot from kind of in-platform measurement too. So, this will give you a good insight into which ad formats are performing best, what kind of copy is engaging your target audience, and we'll get into some of those key in-platform metrics very shortly. So in terms of what to track, honestly, the world is pretty much your oyster, but there's some essential metrics that you really kind of want to be thinking about from day one. First of all, so engagement metrics like click-through rates. So it's all well and good people being served your ad, but are they taking action? Number of video views, but not just the number. How long are people kind of watching and staying with your brand? And the number of clicks on your kind of different products. In terms of monetary metrics, cost per click is a really important one. So how much is it costing you to get a click from your audience and kind of taking them on to the next step? And CPM, which stands for cost per mil, which doesn't really make much sense because it actually means cost per thousand. Essentially, how much is it costing you to reach 1,000 people within your target audience? And then next, we've got conversions. So tracking the kind of unique kind of actions along your company's kind of purchase path in order to make sure that we're optimizing towards the best kind of ROI. Cross-device reporting, so making sure that any kind of journeys that start on mobile and end on desktop are kind of seamlessly tracked. And of course, website engagement. So once people land on your website, what kind of actions are they performing? Are they kind of staying on your site for a long time? Are they browsing around? That's all really important to make sure that your overall strategy is successful. So our top tips. First of all, we recommend that you post with a smallish budget. So for those of you who said that you haven't advertised on Facebook before, start with a small budget and just experiment. Experiment with content, imagery, messaging, and just find out what resonates best with your audience. Then you can get really kind of specific by narrowing down your audience, taking those learnings and applying them. And we recommend that perhaps you start off with boosting your posts. This will really help kind of recoup any kind of lost reach through organic. And it's just a good starting point to get you in the mindset of serving ads to your audiences as well. And use them as a way of testing and learning. So maybe just put £50 towards a campaign and see what works and equally what doesn't, and take those learnings forward into a larger campaign. We recommend that you test different bid strategies, ad groups, and ad placement. Facebook has a built-in kind of split testing tool to facilitate this. We recommend that you use Facebook custom audiences. So for example, retargeting users who've watched your videos, interacted with your posts, or followed your page. Use the Facebook Pixel and Conversion API together to collect data about who's visiting your website. This allows you to retarget those users later and gives you access to something called lookalike audiences too. And then finally, if you're an e-commerce business, make use of the Facebook product catalog. So this really kind of facilitates a rich browsing experience for Facebook users and helps kind of showcase your kind of library of products and increase conversion among those as well. So now over to Gemma to run you through all things Instagram.
Thanks, Sam. So as we did with Facebook, we're going to run through just another quick poll just to see how many of you are actually using Instagram to advertise. So you'll have around 15 seconds for that too. Brilliant, thank you. So what we'll do is we'll share the results at the end of the presentation. So starting things off in a similar fashion with some stats that we think you need to know about Instagram. So the key age group are millennials aged 18 to 35. So users on average spend around 53 minutes per day browsing on Instagram. So we have around 130 million users actually tapping on shopping posts every month. So it's really important to have, your full catalogue of visual content on there. And 50% of users also visit a website to make a purchase after seeing a product or service on Instagram. So in terms of kind of advertising, how it works is with Facebook and Instagram, it's actually best practice to place Instagram ads at the same time as Facebook rather than targeting people exclusively on one platform. So it's actually better to target via the demographics and then select the platform placements, which we'll talk about a bit later, that you actually want your ads to appear. So whether it's Facebook and Instagram, as they're owned by Meta, what that does is that then shows Meta, which platforms, where Meta selects which platforms are the best, where your audience hangs out online the most. So for Instagram, it would actually be very expensive to target people just on its own rather without Facebook. So here are kind of like a breakdown of the costs. So as you can see from these figures here, Instagram's closest rival is TikTok. And you can see that for Instagram, the cost per click is 96p, which is actually both higher than TikTok and Facebook. So TikTok comes in really low at 15 pence per click. And then Facebook comes in at 39 pence. So we'll actually talk more about Instagram and targeting options in our session next week. So in terms of kind of Instagram also, it does have the lowest click-through rate versus Facebook, and then also with TikTok again coming up trumps. So what we'll do is we'll be actually, like I said, covering a bit more kind of about how you can really utilize TikTok in the coming sessions. So I would suggest, even if millennials are an important part of your target audience, it would definitely be worthwhile still including Instagram in your paid marketing mix. And it is worth noting that with TikTok, in the last few weeks, it's actually expanded its audience targeting, which we'll go into in our TikTok session. So with Instagram, you might, from this slide, you can see the targeting options you have. So very similar to Facebook. So you've got brand awareness there as one of your objectives, reach and video views. So with Instagram, how it works is it uses Facebook's advertising platform, which has, incredibly powerful targeting abilities, allowing you to target based on the following. So that's location, demographics, interests, behaviors, even people who've purchased from you in the past. So it's definitely worth exploring from that point of view. And then, obviously that's kind of, via the lookalike audiences. So we can, target based on that, as well as people who've engaged with your content, people who follow you through, again, lookalike audiences. And then in terms of kind of looking at the different ad types. So there's quite a few different ones you can use on Instagram. So these are the most popular ones. So you've got in-feed ads, where you'll see these a lot online on Instagram. So it just allows you to get your brand and product in front of your target audience quite quickly. It's very straightforward. And then in the last few years, there's been other types of formats that have popped up, such as a lot of people have seen stories ads. So now there are actually 500 million people using Instagram stories every single day. So that's a third of the most viewed stories are from brands and businesses, and around 58% of people surveyed say they have become more interested in a brand or product after seeing it in the stories section of Instagram. So it is worthwhile considering. And alongside that, 50% of people surveyed said they have visited a website to buy a product or service as a result of seeing it in stories. And then, it's really important that stories do make full use of the mobile screen, offering businesses an immersive, distraction-less canvas. So it is definitely, a really interesting option to go down. And then what's actually one of the more recent formats in terms of stories and kind of advertising options for Instagram are Reels. So I don't know if anyone has seen that actually you can now do advertising on Reels. You couldn't do that, I think about 6 months ago. So it's a new thing. It's a new string to an advertiser's bow. And it is the best place on Instagram to reach people who don't actually follow you already, as the Instagram algorithm favors Reels. So it's definitely worthwhile considering. Reels are full screen and they're vertical, so it's quite similar to stories, very similar to TikTok. And basically how it works is the ads for Reels will appear in between individual organic Reels. So it will be looping basically. So with regular Reels, these ads will loop, and then they can be up to 30 seconds. So actually people can comment, like, view, save and share on Reel ads. So the final ad type are collection ads. So these allow you to maximize the reach of your products. So they drive people directly to a product detail page to learn more. So from there, people can go to your website to purchase items. So they are normally shown in feed or in the explore tab of Instagram, and they tend to use their single image and carousel video formats. So in terms of best practice, there are a number of leading schools of thought when it comes to best ways to target people. But really the main thing is to test and learn as you go. So just try out all the different ad formats, see what works well for your audience, see what really is kind of, getting those good click-through rates and cost per clicks and conversions. And just make sure that you create your ads specifically for Instagram. So in the vertical format for stories, and then the square format for static images, and that the ad formats aren't being repurposed from another platform. So do make sure that you choose imagery that is best suited for Instagram, and utilize segmented lists, including custom audiences. So when you are testing and learning, if you're doing A/B testing, just make sure that you test one variable at a time, just to see what works for you and your audience, because you need to find the sweet spot with every demographics, and who you're targeting, kind of, psychographics. It's really important to just make sure that you are selecting one of those, so you can really start to build a picture up and see, kind of how you can expand your targeting once you find the sweet spots. So it's really important also to tell a story with your creative. So do show your product in service or action, and try to include motion in your ads, as they do perform better. So, short video clips and GIFs. So how to track. So again, this might look pretty familiar to what we've run through earlier. That's because it's identical. So whilst you can track your campaign performance with Facebook Business Manager, you can actually monitor your ad performance with the Instagram app itself. I don't know if any of you had a go doing that. It's very fiddly, but it does really give you a really interesting level of insight, because it offers you, different insights to what the Facebook Business Manager can. So it's worthwhile having a play around in the app, definitely. So in terms of kind of what to track, so we've just covered that. In terms of kind of when it comes to Instagram, what we can say are our top tips. Sorry, bear with me 1 second, sorry. So in terms of what to track, it is a case of, click-through rates and cost per click, as well as everything we've mentioned previously for Facebook. So it's just worth bearing those in mind. But obviously with Instagram, you do also want, the number of clicks on products and the number of video views if you are using those motion ads. In terms of our top tips, so the best tip we can give you is, design for mobile first, really, because 98.8% of users access social media on their mobile devices, and ads do look different when you're placing them on the desktop. You need to check them on your phone as well and see, kind of how the format actually is being seen by the people who are clicking on the ads. So also what we can say is, do keep your branding and messaging at the start of your ads. So try to showcase your messaging and branding within the first 3 seconds. And it's a really good idea to design for the sound off, but do delight with the sound on, as around 40% of users consume content with the volume turned off. So just make sure that you're adding captions and text overlay to make it accessible to everyone. So our other tip is pitch, play, plunge. Use short assets that grab attention and assets that allow exploration, and immersive assets are, kind of could be the game changer, really. As Ben mentioned, you could experiment with augmented reality ads, but have fun, be bold and be different, because that's really what's going to make you stand out. Instagram is so crowded, and it's only going to be more and more crowded, in the future. So it's just really important to do something in a different way to what everyone else is doing. So I'll hand you back to Ben.
Lovely, thanks, Jem. So now we've covered everything you need to know. It's time to think about where you're going to start serving your ads. And there are loads of options. And as I'm sure you've kind of gathered by now, Facebook doesn't just have one kind of placement. So something you might not have heard about is placement liquidity. Essentially, this is all about the power of machine learning. So if you're willing to take your hands off some of the controls, then you can massively benefit from the machine learning kind of enabled liquidity. Essentially, a state in which every penny can flow towards the most valuable impression. Facebook's machine learning on placement liquidity really does make kind of quick work of countless data points to predict which groups within your target audience will respond best to your ads. It then hands that kind of information off to automated systems that place the ads in the correct placement best suited to that outcome. And this can really kind of lead to new efficiencies gains, surprising insights that you might not have kind of realized before, that can kind of spur future strategies, and crucially, time better spent on bigger picture thinking, wider projects, and really kind of refining your ad strategy. You also might or might not have heard of automatic and manual placements, and they really do what they say on the tin, and determine exactly which placements your ads will show in. So by enabling auto placements, Facebook's algorithm will place your ads where it thinks it will perform strongest, basically. So you might appear on Facebook news feeds, Instagram and Facebook stories, or even out in the kind of wild web using the Facebook audience network. More on that in a second, though. Whereas manual placements will allow you to kind of tailor your money to only spend on placements that you want your audiences to engage in. So you might be thinking that automatic placements are the way to go, and that they sound great. And it is perfect for those looking to kind of dip their toes into the advertising waters. But problems can occur pretty quickly when your ads get placed in placements that might not be right for your brand, leading to potentially weaker return on investment, wasted ad spend, or at worst, affiliation with content that might be seen as offensive, controversial, etc. So in summary, manually selecting your placements will actually give you much more control, and that's something that we would strongly kind of recommend. But back to Gemma now for some forward thinking.
Okay, so what does the future hold for the advertising on Facebook and Instagram? So first of all, the metaverse. What could meta mean for your adverts? So will we see digital out-of-home advertising in the metaverse? Will targeting take different forms, so based on body language or appearance and behavior? So think about Ready Player One, where people take vastly different forms in the virtual universe. So will people's personas online or in the metaverse really reflect their realities? Does this skew data and the accuracy of targeting? So will we be targeting their online personas or their real life selves? Who knows? But we're going to see this develop very soon, which is exciting. So in terms of kind of ad targeting, options that have been banned recently, I don't know if anyone's seen, but Facebook have actually announced certain topic exclusion controls for ads served in the news feed. So it's great for brand safety if you don't want to appear against anything potentially controversial. So it's worth noting. However, other developments that have recently come to light is where we're unable to target users aged under 18 by interest or use any type of lookalike or retargeting techniques on Facebook or Instagram. So what this means for under 18s is that we're really limited to just age and location. So it's worth bearing that in mind too. And with Facebook, it's also announced starting the 19th of January next year that detailed targeting options that relate to topics people may perceive as sensitive, such as ads referring to any causes, organizations, or public figures that relate to health, race, ethnicity, political affiliation, religion, or sexual orientation will be removed. So this removes a lot of criteria that may be important when you're constructing your ideal audience, but it demonstrates also the importance of building up your own first-party data just to avoid these kind of restrictions, really. Just lessening, that impact of the social media channels having all the control over your targeting options. So in terms of trustworthiness, so how can you make your ads trustworthy on a notoriously untrustworthy platform? It's all down to deep-rooted ethics, ethical advertising, and avoiding clickbait. So over to Mike.
Much perfectly on time as well, so it'll be about 40 minutes, so that works perfectly. Just to wrap things up before we jump into a Q&A, because I can see we've had quite a few questions come in, and we had a couple of questions come in before the session as well, so we will make sure that we cover those, and we will get there, I promise. So just to reiterate those key takeaways that we ran through at the start, and hopefully we've been going through as we've progressed. So number one, everything always starts with objectives. I mean, that pretty much goes with all marketing, really. But before you look to invest in any sort of advertising, particularly on Facebook and Instagram, what are you looking to achieve? And we showed you that screenshot of how you build a campaign. You can't do anything without identifying what that objective is to start. Continual optimize. That's something that we do regularly, test and learn, always A/B test, that sort of thing. Think mobile first. There was that really alarming stat that 98% of users use Facebook and Instagram on their phones. I think video first. So lightweight motion ads, GIFs, videos, that sort of thing, really engaging. And you can retarget people based on the length of time that they've viewed videos and things like that as well. So potentially a really valuable tool for you there. And finally, those pesky targeting options. So as we've just run through, things are changing rapidly. kind of every day they're bringing out some sort of change to the targeting world. But one thing that we always recommend to our clients is to diversify their ad investments. So don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Look at other channels that your target audience is present on. So you can think Google, TikTok, Snapchat. A bit of a shameless plug for future editions of this session that will come to on very shortly. And last but not least, it wouldn't be one of our webinars without a special offer for all those who've attended. So to help kickstart and supercharge your social media advertising efforts, and as you said there, it's almost Christmas, which is terrifying. I need to start my Christmas shopping. That's a note I'm going to make there. We are offering a free paid social audit. So this particular offer includes an audit of your existing Facebook and Instagram paid media activity, a bit of competitor analysis, all that leads it together into recommendations and next steps. So keep your eyes peeled on your emails. It will come straight into whatever you signed up for this session on. And yeah, there'll be more information about how to claim that offer there. And last but not least, a huge thank you for attending the first of our paid social bite-sized learning sessions in December. There will be a survey that appears at the end, and we'd be really grateful if you could fill it out. It's kind of 3 questions, but it'll just help to make the remaining sessions even better. And as we move into 2022, we'll be able to help shape some of the content that we run in these webinars. A little plug for the next editions. As Gemma said, we're running a TikTok and Snapchat session, and you might be wondering what on earth TikTok has to do with me. It's only 16-year-olds who create dances on there. Very, very much not. We really believe in it. It's a brilliant platform. So I really would recommend attending next week. And then we're running a session on LinkedIn as well in the last week, kind of the week before Christmas. And you can visit arkeagency.com/bitesize to sign up for those. Which kind of leads me nicely, I guess, out of interest, and one final poll. I promise it'll be the last one. It's just to really work out whether you guys are advertising on those other platforms that we run on. And yeah, just kind of interest for us, really. So I'll leave that up for a couple of seconds before we jump into the Q&A. Cool. Awesome. Right, I'll end that there. And then as we are waiting for some final questions to come in, he says, as his presentation stops, so that's fine. We'll run through some of the questions that we've had come in, and there are an awful lot. So we will get started, and I'll be question master, quiz master, and I'll let Ben and Gemma take over. First of all, what is a lookalike audience? I know we've referred to it a couple of times. So Ben and Gemma, I don't know whether one of you wants to take that. There you go, presentation works now.
Yeah, sure. So a lookalike audience is basically a way to expand your reach outside of your kind of existing customers. You essentially feed the advertising platform, Facebook and Instagram, with a base audience, whether that is website viewers, whether that's existing customers. And Facebook looks at all of those kind of unique data points and characteristics among that base audience, and then uses that to find people who share those kind of traits and characteristics. You can go anywhere from kind of a very closely matched audience, which will be quite granular, to kind of a broader audience, but it's a really, really useful tool, and we recommend exploring that.
Awesome. Next one. What is a CTR, please? I know we ran through what a couple of those were at the start. That's a click-through rate, and I'm sure that Ben and Gemma can expand on that because there's much more to what that is. I don't know who wants to take that one.
I can take that one. So a click-through rate is quite simply kind of the percentage that people are clicking through to your ads. So it's really kind of based on, kind of what's most popular, and it's a really good metric to actually see whether your ad is engaging with the target audience or whether you need to kind of come back and optimize your ads just to make sure that you can achieve a good click-through rate. For some of our clients, we have some really high click-through rates recently. So it just depends on the campaign. It can depend on the time of year. It can be anything really that's external causing it, but it could also be, something that, your ads are really resonating. So there's a lot of different factors that would cause a high click-through rate. In terms of low click-through rates, it's just something to be aware of if the message isn't resonating as much. It's something you may want to use the metric to actually inform your strategy of where you're going with your ad campaign, and constantly checking your click-through rate every other day, or every week at least, just make sure that you're keeping an eye on it to make sure that it is telling you what you want to hear. If it's not going well, then make sure you know why. If it is going well, then just ramp it up. That's kind of how we work with click-through rates here, really.
Fab. And then next one, is there an optimal video length for ads on Facebook and Instagram?
Yep, I'll take that one. So yes, so with any kind of social platform, attention spans tend to be quite low. So what we would recommend is kind of going the route of short, snackable content. So in terms of length, that might be anywhere from kind of 10 seconds to 15 seconds. And then, once you've captured that initial engagement, you can then kind of retarget those people with perhaps longer video content once you know that the kind of interest is there. So yeah, 10 to 15 seconds is probably the sweet spot.
Awesome. And then I think that kind of quite nicely leads on to, do you have any tips for creating reels or other content in Instagram, for instance? I'm going to answer that one. But I'll let you guys chip in after this. So we always like to say rough and ready is absolutely the best way of doing it, in particularly for TikTok. And like we said, Instagram and TikTok, the kind of the closest drivers, Instagram Reels in particular. Rough and ready always wins. Something that's really corporate or really sharply produced will just get scrolled past. People can't engage with it. So you can create, there are various tools that you can do to edit things in the background, but you just do it within the app. I've got a little puppy. I always try to brag about my dog, but she does have an Instagram account, and we started creating reels for her, and I've become completely obsessed with it. So it is really easy to do, and you can all do it within the app. Ben and Gemma, I don't know whether you've got anything else to add on that.
No, but I need to follow your dog on Instagram.
I'm going to start adding a slide at the end for the shameless plug. What do you make of the changes to targeting options?
Yeah, so all the targeting option changes that Gemma ran through, I suppose it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So it does limit the way that we can use these platforms to efficiently reach our audiences. But on the other hand, they are kind of striving to achieve the greater good in terms of, making sure that we're not kind of utilizing kind of the data of under 18 to target, as well as kind of maintaining some sort of ethical position on kind of not kind of going deep into protected personal characteristics. So from that point of view, I think it's ultimately a good thing. And what it does do is kind of make us think outside the box as advertisers, thinking of new kind of innovative ways to reach our audiences without kind of breaching any kind of consent or sort of muddy lines between what's right and what's wrong.
Any other questions, feel free to pop them in now. We'll cover them, or if you have any, hello@arkeagency.com is the best place to get us on, and we'll cover them. We'll do a little blog afterwards, and like we said, we'll share the recording as soon as it's available. Does Twitter have a place in the marketing mix?
Yes, it does, but probably not for all brands and companies. Twitter does have a very comprehensive ads kind of offering, but just because of the nature of the platform, it tends to be quite conversational and quite kind of zeitgeisty. So, all about kind of current topics, current kind of trends in conversation. So if you're a sort of brand that is able to kind of leverage that to kind of tell your brand story, then absolutely go ahead. If not, if your brand is slightly more corporate, or you're looking to kind of go down a more direct response route of advertising, then it's certainly worth testing. But we would recommend in the first instance some of the other social channels above TikTok, Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't think there's any more questions that have come in. That was brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Ben and Gemma, for taking part in the Q&A, and for everyone for attending and answering those really kind of thought-provoking questions. We hope you found it really useful as a nice little bite-sized session. Like I said, we'll be covering Snapchat and TikTok next Tuesday, and then LinkedIn on Monday the following week. If you would like to sign up, arkeagency.com/bite-size. Keep your eyes peeled for the offer, and we will be in touch very soon. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.